When I opened my eyes in the hospital after the accident, I remembered everything. My name, my life, and especially Sonia, the woman I loved. But when she walked into the room and said, "I'm just your nurse," I knew she had betrayed me. I could still hear the sound of tires screeching, feel the crunch of metal folding in around me. They said I was lucky to survive. Maybe. But when Sonia pretended not to know me, I realized what I'd woken up to wasn't life. It was a trap. She looked me in the eye with that soft, professional smile and asked how I was feeling, as if the last 2 years of love between us had never happened. I played along, told her I didn't remember anything. And just like that, the light in her eyes changed. Relief. As if my memory dying was the best news she could have heard. For 2 years, Sonia had been everything to me. My girlfriend, my future, the person who promised we'd get through anything together. But the moment I was weak, she switched roles like she'd never loved me at all. She didn't even flinch when the doctors told her I might have permanent amnesia. She just nodded and walked out like a stranger. That's when I decided. If she could fake forgetting what we had, I could fake forgetting her. I told everyone I couldn't remember a thing, names, faces, nothing. The whole hospital thought I was a blank slate. But the truth was, I remembered everything, including how Sonia used to hold my hand when I was stressed, how she'd whisper that she'd never leave, and how just a month before the crash, I'd bought a ring and planned to propose. Turns out I got into the accident driving to meet her. But now she was pretending I was just another patient. What could make a woman erase 2 years like they meant nothing? I was determined to find out. And until then, I'd keep playing dumb. Because if Sonia thought I was out of the game, she was about to learn I was just getting started. My name is Peters. I've never been the smartest guy in the room, but I've always known how to work hard. I didn't come from money, didn't have a big name behind me. Everything I got, I earned with my own 2 hands. For years, I juggled 2 jobs just to pay my tuition, graduated late but graduated proud. That's when I met Sonia. She wasn't like the girls I grew up around. She was elegant, calm, confident, a nurse in the city hospital where I volunteered on weekends. I still remember the first time I saw her. White coat, clipboard in hand, hair tied back, not a strand out of place. The way she moved, the way she spoke, it all made sense. She belonged to a different world, and I never thought I'd be allowed in it. But then one day, I passed out from exhaustion in the break room. I woke up with Sonia sitting beside me, holding a cold compress to my head. "You need to eat more," she said without looking up. "Running around all day without food? What are you trying to prove?" I smiled through the dizziness and said that I'm tougher than I look. She rolled her eyes and mumbled, "Or just more reckless." That's how it started. From that moment, she kept checking up on me. She'd bring extra lunch, offer to cover my shift if she saw I was tired, leave handwritten notes in my locker. Simple stuff, but it felt like gold to someone like me. I thought maybe, just maybe, she saw something in me too. Eventually, I asked her out. She didn't say yes immediately. She made me wait a week, made me sweat. But when she finally said yes, I knew I'd never want anyone else. For 2 years, we were inseparable. We celebrated birthdays, holidays, even the smallest victories, like when I got a promotion or when she passed a tough certification exam. She introduced me to her colleagues as her boyfriend, came to my place on weekends to cook, brought extra blankets when I caught a cold. We talked about the future, moving in together, getting married, maybe even leaving the city one day and starting fresh somewhere quieter. It wasn't a perfect relationship. We fought sometimes. She'd get upset when I worked late without telling her. I'd get jealous when I saw her laughing too hard with her male coworkers. But we always made up. We always came back to each other. At least, that's what I believed. Then came the night of the accident. I was on my way to meet her after a double shift. I had the ring in my coat pocket. I was planning to propose. I was nervous, but I knew she was the one. I had it all pictured. The smile on her face. The way she'd throw her arms around me, say yes without hesitation. But fate had other plans. A drunk driver ran a red light. I remember the headlights, the screech of brakes, the sickening sound of impact. Then, nothing. When I woke up in the hospital 3 days later, everything hurt. But what hurt most was Sonia. She stood at the foot of my bed, arms folded, no ring, no tears. The doctors told her I had a head injury, possible memory loss. She didn't even flinch. And when I looked at her and asked, "Do I know you?" she smiled like I'd asked about the weather. "I'm just your nurse," she said. Just like that, cold, clinical, like the last 2 years had never existed. In that moment, I knew something was wrong. She wasn't surprised I didn't remember. She was relieved, like she'd been waiting for this. And that's when it hit me. She wanted me to forget. She wanted a clean break. She wasn't confused or hurt. She was done. But rather than explain or face me, she hid behind a lie. It would have been easier if she just told me she didn't love me anymore, that someone else was in the picture, that she regretted being with me. But pretending I was a stranger, that was unforgivable. So I made a decision. If Sonia could throw away 2 years like they meant nothing, then I could pretend to forget too. I told the doctors I didn't remember anything. Names, relationships, my job, my past, all of it gone. And everyone bought it, especially her. She kept coming in every day with that nurse's smile. Checked my IV, changed my bandages, asked routine questions, as if she hadn't kissed me 100 times before, as if I didn't still remember the way she used to whisper my name. I watched her carefully. She was hiding something, and I was gonna find out what. Maybe there was another man, maybe I'd been nothing more than a convenience to her. But I wasn't about to let this go. I might have been the patient now, but she had no idea. I was still in control. The more I watched Sonia, the more her mask slipped. She thought I was clueless, a man whose memories had been wiped clean by trauma. Every time she stepped into the room, she wore that same fake smile, her tone warm but hollow. "How are we feeling today, Mr. Peters?" she'd ask, acting like we hadn't once slow danced barefoot in my apartment's kitchen to old jazz. Records like she hadn't once cried in my arms over losing a patient. I kept pretending. I'd glance around like everything was foreign, stammer like I didn't know what a drip bag was, and even faked surprise when I saw my reflection in the mirror. The nurses and doctors praised Sonia for being so gentle with me, for her empathy. I let them believe it. I let her believe it. Because every day she came in without a flicker of guilt, I was more convinced Sonia had been waiting for a way out. And she got it the moment my head hit that dashboard. But what she didn't expect was that I remembered everything. One morning, I overheard her phone buzz while she was adjusting my sheets. She walked to the corner to check it, forgetting that I had a clear view in the reflection of the window. A message from someone named William popped up. "You free tonight? He still playing dumb?" Sonia smiled. She typed back quickly. I couldn't see what she wrote, but it didn't matter. The message was enough. William. That name had never come up in our relationship, and from the way she smirked reading his text, it wasn't just a friend. I let my eyes drift closed and faked sleep when I heard the soft tap of her heels leaving the room. I opened them again, feeling my jaw tighten. She hadn't just moved on, she was involved with someone else, and she was using my accident to erase our past so she wouldn't have to explain herself. That night, while the ward was quiet and the hallway lights flickered low, I asked one of the night nurses, Pamela, for help. I remembered her, Sonia's colleague, always kind but quiet. She used to join us sometimes for lunch breaks. I said, "Can I ask you something? Off the record?" She looked surprised. "I thought you didn't remember anything." I gave a half smile. "I remember what matters." She sat beside me, a little hesitant. I said, "Sonia, was she seeing anyone before the accident?" Pamela paused, eyes scanning my face. "I don't think I should get involved. Please, I'm not angry. I just want the truth." She hesitated, then sighed. It wasn't official, but around A month before your accident, things between you two seemed tense, and she started hanging out with this guy. William. He works in the administrative office. I clenched the sheets under my fingers. And she told you she was just my nurse? Pamela looked down, guilt flickering across her face. She said it would be easier that way, that you might not handle it well if you remembered. I laughed, quiet, bitter. Right, she was looking out for me. Pamela stood up awkwardly. I'm sorry. I thought you had the right to know. When she left, I stared at the ceiling for hours. So that was it. Sonia had emotionally checked out before the accident. I'd just been too blinded by love to see the signs. She was already slipping away while I was still picking out a ring. And William had slid right in while I was busy planning a future. What really stung wasn't the betrayal. It was the fact that she didn't even have the decency to end it properly. She could have walked away, told me we were done. Instead, she chose to rewrite our history, like I was some inconvenience she could discard the moment I stopped being useful. But what Sonia didn't realize was that the man lying in this bed wasn't the same one she left behind. That man loved her, trusted her, believed in her. This man was done being lied to. If she wanted to pretend I was just another patient, I'd make sure she learned how dangerous it is to underestimate someone who's quietly watching. Because Sonia wasn't going to walk away from this untouched. Not after everything. Not after what she'd done. Every night when the hallway lights dimmed and the beeping machines became the only sound left in my hospital room, the weight in my chest grew heavier. I stared at the ceiling until my eyes burned, wondering how someone could lie so easily. Sonia didn't just walk away, she erased me. Everything we'd built, every memory we shared, every small promise. She buried it without a second thought. And I had to sit there every day, pretending I didn't remember the smell of her perfume, the rhythm of her laugh, the way she'd stroke my hair when I was too tired to speak. It made me feel pathetic, helpless. I hated it. The nurses treated me like a fragile thing. Sonia treated me like a stranger. I'd always prided myself on being independent, on being strong. But now, I was trapped in a hospital bed, faking memory loss while watching the woman I loved pass by me like I was some patient on her checklist. I kept playing dumb. Every time she came in, I'd blink slowly, squint at her face, mumble like I was confused, and every time she'd smile like she was so relieved I couldn't see the truth. But I could see it. I saw everything. One afternoon, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror while shaving. My face looked unfamiliar, like I'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. Maybe I had. Maybe betrayal aged people faster than time. I couldn't help thinking, was it me? Had I done something wrong? Worked too much? Loved her too hard? Or was she always this cold, and I'd just been too in love to notice? The questions didn't stop. They circled in my head like vultures, feeding on whatever pride I had left. What if William wasn't just some rebound? What if he was the reason she started pulling away months ago? What if, even while we were together, she already had one foot out the door? Sometimes I thought about the ring I had bought. Where was it now? Still in the pocket of the coat they cut off me at the crash site? Or did someone find it and toss it away, not knowing what it meant? And the worst part, the part that gnawed at me more than anything else, was that I still loved her. I hated her, but I loved her. How do you kill feelings like that? How do you stop caring about someone who looked you in the eyes and chose to lie? Every smile she gave me now felt like poison. I started watching her more carefully, noticing how she checked her phone more when she thought I was asleep, how her tone would shift ever so slightly when she was distracted, and how her visits grew shorter, less personal, more procedural, and when I looked into her eyes, I didn't see regret. I saw freedom. She was happier now, more relaxed, like my accident gave her permission to wipe the slate clean. I started journaling when no one was looking. Pamela, the night nurse, had left me a small notebook to help with memory recovery. I used it to write down everything I remembered, every lie Sonia told, every moment I caught her slipping, every little detail I could use later. I didn't know yet what I was going to do. But I knew I couldn't keep lying here, letting her win. The suspense was eating me alive. What if Sonia found out I remembered everything? Would she disappear? Would she deny it all? Would she run to William and laugh at how pathetic I was? Some nights I lay there, jaw clenched so hard it ached, imagining the day I'd stand in front of her, not as a weak patient, but as the man she betrayed, the man who'd played her at her own game. But until that day, I had to keep pretending. Keep suffering in silence. Keep drowning in the memories she'd thrown away. I didn't want revenge for the sake of pride. I wanted it because I needed her to feel what I felt, confused, discarded, and invisible. She'd turned our love into a ghost. So now, I would haunt her. Quietly. Cleverly. And when the time was right, I'd make sure she remembered exactly who I was. I thought I had time. I thought I could bide my days in silence, gather information, plan my move, and hit Sonia where it would hurt the most. Her reputation, her pride, her comfort. But then, everything shifted overnight. It started with a late-night conversation outside my door. The hallway was quiet, lights dimmed, and I heard Sonia's voice. Low. Urgent. Her footsteps stopped just near the corner, and then another voice responded. Male, familiar. William. I told you, Sonia whispered harshly. He doesn't remember anything. Stop panicking. William sounded tense. Are you sure? Pamela said he's been writing things down. I froze. Pamela? My chest tightened. I had trusted her. She knew I was faking it, but I thought she was on my side. She'd listened, nodded, looked guilty. But she was talking to them? Sonia lowered her voice further. He's just journaling, like the doctors told him. Don't read into it. And what if he's faking? William snapped. What if he remembers and he's just playing dumb to get back at you? There was a long silence. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then Sonia said the one thing that nearly made me sit up and confront them both right then and there. Even if he remembers, what's he gonna do? He's still stuck in that bed, still powerless. He's just Peters. He can't hurt us. I gripped the edge of the mattress so hard my knuckles went white. Us. There it was. The confirmation I hadn't heard from her. Mouth until now. They weren't just close, they were together. And worse, they were mocking me, planning their next steps while I lay here pretending to be weak, while she pretended to be innocent. I knew William worked in the hospital's admin department. I'd done some digging through Pamela's loose conversations, but what I didn't know, what became horrifyingly clear now, was how deep Sonia's manipulation ran. This wasn't just personal. They were planning something bigger. Suddenly, everything clicked. Why she was so relaxed. Why she insisted on being my nurse instead of stepping away. Why William had access to my files, my test reports, even my chart. They weren't just trying to erase my past. They were preparing to erase me. Legally, financially, everything. Didn't have family. No siblings. My mother had passed away, and Sonia had lived with me for over a year before the accident, long enough to know where I kept every document, every password, every emergency contact. If she claimed I wasn't mentally stable, if she said I couldn't make my own decisions, she could take it all. I'd left her access to my apartment. My bank details were written on a paper in my desk drawer. She knew that. I had no reason not to trust her back then. Now I realized she was probably already draining it all, one step at a time. And I was running out of time. They weren't just waiting for me to recover. They were counting on me not recovering at all. And that's when everything changed. This wasn't just betrayal, this was war. And I'd been playing dead in the middle of the battlefield. Next morning, I didn't ask for help getting up. I pulled the IV from my arm, pressed the call button until a nurse came in, and told her I needed to start walking again. She hesitated, said I should wait for approval. I said I felt strong enough. I lied, of course. Every step burned like fire under my skin, but I forced myself to move anyway. Because if Sonia and William were going to destroy everything I had left, I'd rather crawl through hell than let them do it with a smile. That same day, Pamela came to check on me. She looked nervous, avoiding my eyes, tapping her fingers against the clipboard like she was rushing to get through her shift. I waited until she leaned close enough and whispered, "Why'd you tell them?" She froze. Slowly, she looked up. What are you talking about?" "I heard everything," I said, staring straight at her. "Last night, outside the door, you told William about the journal." Her face lost all color. "Peters, I didn't mean to. You played both sides," I said. "You knew I was pretending. You knew everything, and you still warned them." "I didn't warn them," she said quickly. "William cornered me. He saw the notebook. I didn't know what to do. I didn't tell him what was inside." "And Sonia?" Pamela hesitated. That pause told me everything I needed. "You're scared of her," I said flatly. "She's not who you think she is," Pamela whispered. "She has connections, Peters. I don't know how, but she does. People listen to her. People cover for her. I didn't want to be on the wrong side of it." "You already are," I said coldly. "You just don't realize it yet." She opened her mouth, then shut it. Finally, she said, "What are you going to do?" I looked her in the eye and said, "Remind her who I am." That afternoon, I called a friend from my old job, someone I hadn't spoken to in months. Thomas, former IT engineer, quiet guy, always kept to himself, but brilliant with systems. I gave him a simple instruction: break into my home router, check for any unfamiliar logins, and monitor access to my accounts. Within 2 hours, he sent me everything. "Someone's been logging into your email from a different IP. 2 days ago, they reset your bank credentials." I stared at the screen. Sonia. No doubt. But that wasn't the only thing Thomas found. She accessed your draft folder, the one with the contract details for your freelance business account. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just draining me financially. She was preparing to take ownership of everything I'd built, my clients, my work, my name. She wasn't walking away from me. She was replacing me. By the time Sonia walked into the room that evening with her usual soft voice and fake smile, I had already made up my mind. "How are you feeling today, Mr. Peters?" she asked, pretending to fluff. The pillows beside me, I stared at her. Much better, clearer, stronger. She blinked, the fake warmth in her expression flickering for a second. "That's good to hear." I sat up straighter. My voice was cold, calm. "Do you know what's strange about memory loss?" She tilted her head slightly. "What do you mean?" "It's unpredictable, comes and goes. Sometimes people forget years, sometimes just moments, and sometimes it all comes rushing back when they least expect it." Sonia stilled, just for a moment. Her hand froze mid-air over the edge of the blanket. I smiled faintly. "And sometimes they never forget anything at all." The silence between us stretched so thin I could hear her heartbeat. "I know everything, Sonia." She slowly pulled her hand back. "Peters, I think you might be confused." "Stop," I said. My voice was sharp now. "Don't pretend anymore. I know about William. I know about the bank accounts. I know what you've been doing while I was lying here." She straightened her back, dropped the act, and stared at me coldly. "So? What are you going to do about it?" I laughed, a short, bitter sound. "That's the real you, isn't it? No more gentle nurse. Just the woman who couldn't even wait until I was buried before moving on." "You were supposed to die," she said bluntly. "The doctors didn't think you'd wake up." My stomach twisted, but I kept my face calm. "So you thought you'd clean up? Take what was left? Erase me?" "You don't get it," she hissed. "You were dead weight. All that struggling, all that hard work. You were never going to be anything. And yet," I said slowly, "you still said yes to my love, still lived in my home, still let me believe we had a future." "Because you were easy to manipulate," she snapped. You worshipped me. That was useful. I stared at her, then calmly reached into the drawer beside my bed and took out a small recorder. I pressed play. He doesn't remember anything. Even if he does, what's he going to do? He's just Peters. He can't hurt us. Her face turned to stone. You recorded me? No, I said. The hospital hallway did. Security cameras. Sound included. I requested a copy. She stepped back, breathing faster. You think anyone's going to believe you? You're just some guy in a hospital bed. They'll believe it when I sue you for identity theft, I said. And when the police see the bank login logs, and when your sweet William is caught tampering with patient records using his hospital credentials. Sonia's mouth opened, but no words came out. You stole from the wrong person, I said, my voice steady. I might have loved you once, but now I'm going to make sure you never forget what you did. She turned and stormed out of the room. Minutes later, chaos erupted outside. Voices raised, footsteps running. William tried to access the server to erase his login trail. Too late. By evening, both of them were suspended under investigation. And me? I got up, walked down the hallway under my own strength. Every muscle ached, but I kept walking, because for the first time since the crash, I wasn't the one being lied to. I was the one in control. 3 weeks later, I walked out of the hospital with my own clothes on, my own name intact, and my life, what was left of it, firmly back in my hands. Sonia and William. They didn't see it coming. The moment the investigation started, they both scrambled like cornered rats. Sonia tried to blame William, saying she only logged into my accounts because he told her to. William fired back, saying Sonia orchestrated everything, and he was just following her lead. Watching them turn on each other was the first satisfying thing I'd felt since waking up in that bed, but it didn't stop there. The hospital board, desperate to avoid a public scandal, fast-tracked their suspensions. William lost his job within days. Sonia? She was slapped with charges for identity fraud, breach of patient privacy, and professional misconduct. The evidence was airtight. Audio recordings, IP logs, and witness statements from Pamela, who eventually confessed everything to save herself. I didn't even have to lift a finger in court. My lawyer did the rest, and he was ruthless. I reclaimed. My finances froze all joint access and changed every password. I moved out of the apartment Sonia once lived in and sold it the next week. I didn't want to breathe in a single corner of space where she'd ever smiled at me falsely. That ring I once bought for her? I left it on the courthouse steps the day of her arraignment with a note that said, "You could have had everything. You chose nothing." The news spread like wildfire. A hospital nurse manipulating a vulnerable patient into signing over assets? The public didn't forgive that easily. Sonia's name was plastered across headlines. William vanished into obscurity, and no one in the medical field would touch either of them again. Their reputations, destroyed. Their careers, over. But it wasn't just about punishment. It was about closure. One night, just before the trial's final verdict, Pamela knocked on my door. She looked nervous again, holding a small envelope in her hands. "I found this in Sonia's locker," she said. "It was addressed to you. I figured you should be the one to read it." I took it silently, waited until I was alone before opening it. Inside was a single photograph, me and Sonia, smiling at the beach from last summer. I was holding her hand. She had leaned into me like she belonged there. And on the back, written in her handwriting, was one sentence. "You would have made a great husband." I just wasn't ready to be a real person. I stared at it for a long time, and then I burned it. There's a kind of peace that comes after everything's ruined. When there's nothing left to lose, you get to build something new. I started over, rented a small flat closer to work, rebuilt my client base, started jogging, in the mornings, eating properly again, sleeping without dreaming of her. Pamela reached out sometimes. We talked. She apologized more than once. I didn't blame her anymore. Fear makes people weak, but at least she tried to make it right in the end. Not everyone does. One afternoon, while organizing old files, I found a backup drive I hadn't touched in months. It had videos from those 2 years with Sonia, a birthday dinner, a clumsy attempt at building IKEA furniture, her laughing on the balcony as rain soaked the both of us. I watched exactly 30 seconds, then I hit delete. She didn't get to live in my memories anymore. A month later, my lawyer handed me the final report. Sonia had been convicted of multiple counts of fraud and sentenced to 2 years. William pleaded guilty and took a deal to avoid jail time, but he'd be paying restitution for the next 10 years. And me? I took the settlement money and donated half of it to a clinic that helped low-income patients with head injuries. The rest went into my new business because no matter how much Sonia tried to erase me, I was still here, still standing, still Peters. I never contacted her again, never visited, never wrote back when she tried sending a letter from jail. I didn't need to. The silence was enough, the success was enough, and every now and then I'd walk past a mirror, glance at my reflection, and remind myself, she thought I was gone. She thought she could bury me under a lie. But I buried her with the truth instead. And now, every time she closes her eyes in that cell, I hope she remembers the man she tried to forget. Because I remember everything, and I always will.